Every single day, millions of Americans tear a small rectangle of paper out of a little book, scribble a number on it, sign their name, and hand it to another human being as payment. The rest of the developed world basically stopped doing this decades ago. In this video, you are going to find out exactly why the United States never let go of the check, why the banking system quietly fights to keep things this way, and why your rent, your landlord, and a piece of legislation from the 1980s are all tangled up in one of the strangest financial holdovers in the modern world. Here is the number that stops most people cold. Americans write around 14 billion checks every single year. That is not a typo, 14 billion. The United Kingdom processes fewer than 500 million annually. Germany, France, and the Netherlands have essentially phased them out entirely. Scandinavia looked at checks, decided they were ridiculous, and built real-time digital payment systems that most Americans have never even heard of. So what happened here? Why did the most technologically powerful country on earth keep writing paper slips while the rest of the world moved on? The answer starts with something called infrastructure lock-in, and it is stranger than it sounds. When electronic banking was first becoming possible in the 1970s and 1980s, the United States already had a check processing system so enormous and so deeply embedded into the economy that replacing it felt like trying to reroute every river in the country at once. Europe, by contrast, was building its banking infrastructure later and had the luxury of skipping straight to electronic systems. The United States had thousands of individual banks, each with its own systems, its own processes, and absolutely no incentive to agree on a single national standard. Europe had far fewer banks and far more centralized coordination. That head start in paper became a trap. And if that kind of slow-motion infrastructure trap hidden inside everyday life is exactly what you love learning about, subscribing takes 1 second and puts more of it in your feed every day. Now here's the part most videos skip entirely. The banking lobby in the United States has historically had a quiet but powerful interest in keeping checks alive. Every time a check moves through the system, banks collect fees. Processing, clearing, float, that short window of time between when you write a check and when the money actually leaves your account, all of it generates revenue. Real-time payment systems, the kind that Europe and places like Brazil and India have built, eliminate float almost completely. That is money the banking industry would simply stop earning. This is not a conspiracy. It is just the ordinary math of institutional self-interest, and it has shaped American payment policy for decades in ways most people never think about. Then there is rent. This one is genuinely strange when you look at it up close. A huge portion of American checks written today are rent payments. Landlords, especially smaller individual landlords, prefer checks for a combination of reasons: records, habit, and the fact that many property management systems were built around them and never updated. Peer-to-peer apps have made personal payments nearly paperless for most Americans under 40, but the moment rent comes due, millions of people go find their checkbook. The check did not survive everywhere. It survived specifically in the pockets of the economy where old systems never got replaced. And what makes the United States situation almost absurd is how recently it started catching up. A payment system called RTP, short for real-time payments, only launched in 2017. FedNow, the government's own real-time payment rail, only went live in 2023. The European Union had a real-time payment infrastructure running in 2008. The gap is not a few years. It is a generation. The deeper truth underneath all of this is that the check is not really about paper. It is about what happens when a system gets big enough before something better comes along. The railroad gauge, the exact distance between two rails, is still the same width in the United States as it was in the 1800s, not because it is ideal, but because everything was already built around it. Checks are the same kind of object, not kept out of love or logic, but out of the sheer gravity of everything already pointing in their direction. The world is full of these quiet relics holding centuries of inertia in plain sight. And if you want to keep finding them, subscribing is genuinely the easiest thing you will do today.